And then why did you come to the United States? Why did you decide to leave that career behind and come here?
Let's see if I can do a good job connecting the dots. Okay, so so I always try to connect the research, my work in research, with the clinical practice. So years later, I earned my master's degree, and I started teaching. And actually, during my master's degree, I kept publishing in international conferences in health economics, which then was an area that I fell in love with. So I presented a poster in cost assessment in different types of dressing for bed sores. I think 1 year later, 2 years later, a company in the United States reached out to me asking for my support as a consultant to help launch their products in Latin America. I was already fluent in English. I was already fluent in Spanish. So language helps. Like, language opens doors in your life, right? And I'm fascinated meeting new people and learning about different healthcare settings. Anyway, so I started working as a consultant. So I was coming back and forth from Brazil to the United States. And one day, in the personal life, things were not going well. I was in a relationship that worked while it worked. So I was like, I think I'm going to start a new beginning. And I received a lot of support from my peers in the United States while I was presenting some work here through that period of my personal life.
You had come to the United States?
I came, So, oh my gosh, let's see if I can do a good job. So, I was in the United States presenting some work as a consultant. But during that time, I was going through a divorce. And I was really, emotionally very sad. I was devastated. But from the professional life, I was thinking with my colleagues, the peers from the United States, you have a good resume, you have a good background, you have a good experience. Why don't you stay? And I was like, I looked for a lawyer, an immigration lawyer, while I was staying here as a tourist, for 1 month.
I see. Yeah. You came to a conference?
I came for a conference.
And then you stayed a little bit.
Yeah. No, I came for a conference. And then at that time, I was like, okay, I found a number of immigration officer, and I applied right away. I had one suitcase with my conference clothes. Yes.
What year was that?
2017.
Wow.
I had high heel shoes. I didn't have sneakers. I didn't have anything. I was ready for a conference.
You just came for the conference.
I just came. But I was like, if I'm going to start a new life, I'm going to start a new life in the United States, a place that I always loved. I have a lot of publication. I have a lot of work here to do. It's not going to be easy because I didn't know anyone. One thing is to have peers, but another thing is to have people that if you're sick, they can go to the hospital with you. Yeah. And I didn't have that. Yeah. So I never overstayed. I did everything by the book. In 3 months, I got my work permit.
Wow, so you applied for a green card.
No, I applied for 2 things at the same. It was the work permit with the green card, something like
right.
This. Yeah.
But
I self-sponsored.
Yeah, but you self-sponsored your green card petition.
Yes.
Okay, that's incredible. That's incredible. And you, which pathway did you do? You did EB1, I think you're telling me,
correct?
Right?
Yeah.
So can you walk us through a little bit of what components of your career or your curriculum were important for you to get the self-sponsored green card?
Professor, it was everything. Every publication, every certificate, every article. I have article in books. I collected everything and I put on a folder that it was this thick with all my academic
hundreds of pages, right?
It was hundreds of pages.
Yeah.
And so I sent articles that had my picture featured.
Yeah.
I put there. And I also had some letters of professors in the United States who I worked with in collaboration. And they wrote references stating that I do a good job, and that's how it...
The citations are also important,
yes,
right?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Even the small, the big, everything I produced, I included there.
Yeah, so this is an important point for listeners interested in coming to the United States and sorting out these immigration issues. If you are a healthcare professional, like a doctor, a nurse, or a pharmacist, or a dentist, applying for green cards self-sponsored, as Anna did, requires that you essentially be a researcher, that you've published a lot of work. People or the USCIS or immigration services will value in these applications publications, citations, references from others talking about how relevant you are to your field. And the best way to prove that is through publications and citations. There's other things too, like Anna mentioned, being cited in the literature, like lay literature, like when they interviewed you and put your picture on the paper. That is very helpful. I had one in my career interviewed by Medscape that I also use, for
Fantastic.
example. So if you're thinking about self-sponsoring, you have to really have strong research and publication.
Yeah, I was also part of the editorial board to review articles. So I already had that volunteer work.
These are
done
all
with the-
important.
yeah.
Working as a judge of others, that's what serving as a peer reviewer fills out that checkbox. That's also very important. Yeah.
That helps.
Good. How long did the whole process take, the application?
2000, I would say 18 months.
Until you got your green card?
Yeah.
Okay, but you had the work permit early on.
Yes, correct. After 3 months. So 3 months after I applied, I was able to work.
Great.